Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We are very happy to host this session in the Oxford Real Food Conference. I am Angela Cordeiro with the Agroecology Fund. I'm based in Brazil, and I'm very honored this morning to chair this session with these three amazing women that will share with us their work, their actions that their organizations have been taking to face the challenge of the COVID-19 outbreak. The Agroecology Fund, before we start, I would like to just say a few words about the Agroecology Fund. The Agroecology Fund is a pool of donors from US, Europe, and we have also one donor from Asia that join resources together to support agroecology in different parts of the world, the agroecology action, practice, policy advocacy, and research work in different parts of the world. And this year, we were challenged by the COVID outbreak, and we decided to run an emergency call to provide small grants for organizations, grassroots organizations that were dealing with this challenge at local level. And we are very proud today to listen three of them that have been doing a very impressive work on facing this challenge. So we'll listen Kathryn Manga from the Philippines. Kathryn has a background in arts and have done an amazing work in theater, and in the current years she has been working with KMP, that is a peasants organization from Philippines. And we have also Agnes Kirabo, the Executive Director of Food Rights Alliance. She also has a background in arts, and so I can see some synergy between Philippines and Uganda here. And she has been working with development and in food security and human rights issues. And we also have Doa Zayed from Union of Agriculture Works Committee from Palestine. So I'm very, very proud to host this and to chair this session with these three amazing women. And we are very excited to learn from organizations that have been in the front line and doing concrete work to innovate and to find solutions to this very, very challenging situation that we have this year. Not just because the pandemic and all the impacts on people's health, but the impacts on food security, especially with small farmers and vulnerable citizens in the cities. And so I'm very glad with this opportunity, and I hope we can learn a lot this morning with them. So we work like this. We will have 12 minutes for each speaker, and after that we have time to share some questions from the audience with them. And so please send your questions using the Q&A option, and we will be happy in the end of the session to have some minutes to share with them these questions and to have some interaction with the audience. Please, Manga, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Angela. And thank you to Agroecology Fund for organizing this session, and congratulations to the Oxford Real Farming Conference for a very successful opening. So I'm Kathryn Manga. I work with Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or the Peasant Movement of the Philippines. KMP is the democratic mass organization of Filipino peasants, primarily struggling for genuine land reform, social justice, and social change. It is composed of landless peasants, farm workers, peasant women, peasant youth, and millions of rural poor in the countryside. KMP leads about 2 million landless peasants and the rural poor unwaveringly in defending their life and land. It has 15 regional and 63 provincial chapters. The main goal of KMP is to advocate for free land distribution to landless Filipino peasants through genuine land reform, and to emancipate them from various forms of oppression and exploitation. When the COVID pandemic hit the country, this was the case of most of the farming communities in the Philippines. I'm going to stop sharing now and then share with you a link via YouTube so that I can share with you. Yeah, here.
Baga di namon, nagbabaglay kami, alinad to sa Agos. Makabot sa na di sa pananong. Pagabot pa dyan, pagkapararang-arangan pa. Pagkatapos na naman, pabalik, pag alas 5, kay Juan, magalin na din na naman ta. Adyan na naman yung mga pararako. Daman sa sakayan, ako magkinta na motor, di man nakaluwas. Na gusto. Usad-usad ka tayo sana, paano di tataw kita magmotor? Ano sa imo motor?
Ano yan na? Sarin mo ko. Unmaray nga ni nakaluwas pa ka. Lockdown baga.
Nagayang tabang na matabangan kami sa mga pananom na mo, na pierdi, grabe gasto na mo, daman balik, mago yung makapupo, kabarato na.
Wait first. So with the support of Agroecology Fund, we were able to respond to the needs of our communities through our bagsakan or our farmers market, our kamalig or our food processing, and from pots to pans or the backyard gardens. Thus, we were able to achieve the following. With Bagsakan Online Farmers Market, we were able to bring healthy and affordable vegetables to Metro Manila consumers while ensuring that the farmers still get to sell their products despite the lockdown. With Bagsakan, we were able to increase the farm gate price of vegetables in the San Jose del Monte, Bulacan area. Bagsakan buys vegetables directly from KMP farmer members and local organizations. Unlike traders, Bagsakan buys vegetables at a higher price. For example, farmers used to sell their banana to traders at 20 pesos per kilo or 42 cents. In Bagsakan, however, they sell it for 35 pesos per kilo or 73 cents. Their eggplant used to sell at 42 cents as well, but with Bagsakan, we buy it at $1.35, which is more than 300% increase in income for them. Now, traders have adjusted their buying price to a much higher amount to secure their supply of vegetables. It was also able to promote agroecology and connect with the consumers directly with the farmers. Most of the vegetables and fruits coming from KMP farmers are grown naturally and chemical-free. These are harvested from their bungkalan or their land cultivation areas. These communal farms are planted with vegetables, with banana, and fruit-bearing trees. Our Bagsakan FB page promotes these produce with information on the farmers' agroecological practices as well. While Bagsakan manages online orders, some of its customers, especially those who do regular relief operations and community kitchens during the pandemic, have already been ordering their supplies direct from the local farmers. Displaced and landless farmers and peasants were able to have their backyard gardens with the seeds, tools, and farming support given to them. These were also the farmers who we supported to venture into producing value-added products like pineapple vinegar, pineapple marmalade, and pickled papaya. Farmers under organizations like AMB they already have their small emergency seed fund from the sales to support their landless and displaced farmer members. Prior to this, bagsakan sales were used to fund the relief operations for farmers who did not have any form of livelihood during the pandemic. After it was also able to provide funds for the relief operations after the series of typhoons in October and November. We have now sold a total of 18 metric tons or 18,000 kilos of vegetables including the bulk orders. The project was able to instill cooperation among farmers as they take turns in selling their produce in face-to-face bagsakan events, which we organized when travel was already allowed. KMP and AMB helped to organize the schedule of who will be selling their vegetables in these activities. Farmers are also aware that the sales made through the online orders are directed to support their fellow farmers in other barangays. KMP was also able to hold kick-off activity for the year-long campaign of the National People's Food System Summit 2021 with its Land Food Change Conference. With this conference, we were able to document the experiences of the farming and food sector during the pandemic with the objective of putting forward resolutions that will lead to actions in our advocacy to push for a just and people-centered food system with agroecology in its core. For our lessons learned, KMP, one of the biggest lessons is to maintain a strong organization when implementing support projects among farmers with pending land struggles. It is important for the community to realize that they can achieve bigger things when they are together as an organization, like increasing the price of their produce, facing the traders, and demanding for a higher price for their vegetables, and supporting one another in times of crisis. Farmers must also be the ones to set their own policies as an organization. These policies must be derived from their own experiences and from their context. During the implementation, policy advocacy campaigns and engagement with the local government units and policymakers must continue. And lastly, for KMP, our biggest takeaway for this project is that it takes a movement to create substantial change. Without the help of the consumers, our network organizations, our social media followers, and without the support of some policymakers who have been our friends, without the help of organizations like the Agroecology Fund and others who believe in KMP, we would not have been able to support our members and continue our efforts amid lockdown and amid the series of typhoons that hit our country and amid the continuous harassments and red tagging and the killings in our ranks. So thank you very much to Agroecology, and thank you everyone.
We still have 3 minutes. And
Oh,
so if
really?
you could, yeah. So if you could add a bit more about the challenge that you have faced to provide this response to this crisis.
I think the biggest challenge was that before the support of Agroecology Fund arrived, we were already faced with the arrest of our volunteers. We were doing our relief operations after a series of bagsakan or after a series of fundraising for the communities when they were arrested for violating quarantine rules and for inciting to sedition because they were carrying materials, they said, which were against the government, but actually they were just primers on COVID-19 and our own newsletters. So when that happened, our transportation was also confiscated. It's still with the police until now, so we don't have our own transportation. So the biggest challenge actually was to look for a way to transport our vegetables from the communities to Metro Manila. What we did was we arranged for transfer from the border of Bulacan to the border of Metro Manila so that we can still deliver vegetables. Another challenge would be the harassments, which is very real in our communities in KMP communities right now. we have been constantly red tagged by the government, saying that we are communists and terrorists, and there have been lots of killings among our ranks. We now have a total of 310 farmers killed during Duterte administration, and a lot of them have been killed even during the pandemic. Yeah.
Wow, Manga, you are telling us that beyond the pandemic itself, the political context in our countries can make the situation even more challenging, more complicated,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So thank you for now. We'll come back later with more questions and discussion. Now I would like to invite Agnes Kirabo from Food Rights Alliance, the Executive Director of Food Rights Alliance, to share with us. We are traveling now from Philippines to Uganda, crossing the oceans, and we would like to listen and to learn from Agnes what has been the actions that Food Rights Alliance has been implementing to deal with this challenging momentum of the COVID outbreak. Please go ahead, Agnes.
Thank you so much, Angela, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our viewers and our listeners to this conversation, and welcome to East Africa, and specifically the Pearl of Africa here in Uganda. And my name is Agnes Kirabo, like Angela did introduce. I work with an organization called Food Rights Alliance here in Uganda. And the Food Rights Alliance in Uganda is a civil society coalition of over 60 member organizations and individuals. And all of us are being driven by a vision of a world free from hunger and malnutrition. We wake up every day to promote the realization of the right to adequate food in Uganda through strengthening sustainable farming systems, but also improving food governance and nutrition justice. These are the values that we believe in. For us here at Food Rights Alliance, we believe in food first and everything later. We believe in food sovereignty. We believe that food is very important just as means of its production, management, and actual consumption are. And we also do believe that food is the most precious thing in life and in the world. So this is about us. We believe food, we live food, we work on food. But our major focus is on ensuring that the policy and practices do not impact in any way or impede any person in enjoying his or her right to food. Whether there is COVID or there is no COVID, or whether there is a pandemic of what nature or it is not there, for us, people must feed themselves adequately. And when we are talking about adequately, that you must take in food that is of the right quantity and the right quality to nourish your body. And I think this is where food became very central in the conversation that we are having here. So when did the guest, our chief guest, COVID-19, found its way? It was about the end of March. And when this long-awaited guest got us here, unfortunately, we did not appear like we're expecting the guest. We first ran and then came back as a country. But what we take note, like any other country, is that the country went into a total lockdown. And this total lockdown, unfortunately, was announced without warning. And what did the total lockdown mean? It meant that you are not supposed to move out of your house and find your feet on the road unless you have specific circumstances that could only be warranted by the security officials. So the entire management of COVID-19 first was taken up by the security organs of the country, and therefore you had to keep around your house. And actually, some people even got beatings by being on their verandas doing curfew. And some of other measures is that we saw the president banning community markets. What we call community markets, these are seasonal, weekly, or weekly or monthly markets that happen in the communities on a regular day, on a known day. This is where communities, farmers take their produce and offsetters go to these community markets and offset produce from the farmers. And it is the business day. This is when food as produce exchanges hands, and then farmers also access inputs if they haven't gotten the inputs from the NGO, or they haven't gotten the input from the government program, or if they do not have sufficient inputs within the household. So they go to these community markets. So these community markets were abruptly banned. And then we had access to crucial services, also very constrained, like I have said. It took us a lot of advocacy to make noise and shout to government to allow agriculture extension officers to be part of the essential staff to move. But you see, agriculture extension service deliverers and essential service for this discussion is not solely being provided by government. So the NGOs never got these permits, and yet they substitute a great deal of this service to our farmers. But also, I have also already told you that the input distribution system also collapsed because the movements were collapsed. Public transport was constrained, actually was banned. And then the food markets in the cities, these are two different markets. The food markets in the cities, the president said those ones should be open. And we saw the president encouraging the market vendors, who are especially women, to spend the nights in the markets. This also brought its own nightmares, but that one was regarded a given. The other given was farmers were allowed and encouraged to stay on their farms and actually continue growing food. That's the appeal the president would make over and over again, but also government made attempts to give food. I call them attempts because eventually it became a nightmare. And so, as a food organization, we did not just sit and cross our legs, thanks to Agroecology Fund that called for those that are interested in supporting, because we had already seen that food is a frontline weapon to fighting COVID-19 for those that have already attracted the disease and those that haven't attracted the disease. So food for us, we had proved that it is at the front line, but we had realized that the lockdown measures or the response measures that government had put across had really broken the system, and therefore we are heading for a catastrophe. So when Agroecology Fund called for proposals, for us, our proposal was to bridge the gap. Remember, the farmers that are the smallholder farmers that are by and large still producing food ecologically, they could not see their food reach the markets because for them, their markets is not the town markets, it is the community markets. But also on the other hand, we had convinced the consumers that the agroecologically produced foods was the primary remedy, actually was the sure deal if they are to fight back to COVID-19. But they could not access these foods. And we thought that now it was time to see that we bridge the digital divide and also bridge the gap between the farmers and the food consumers. And again, for us, we had seen COVID-19 as a great opportunity for these farmers and also for our agenda that we have been pushing for years. But now here was a gap because the food could not reach those that we had convinced that they need it, and also the farmers could not sell it, and therefore they could not also have access to other foods that they needed to supplement their diets. So we came up with this project and as a response project, and we thought that let us create a marketplace, a digital marketplace. Also, the reason being that we knew now that the guest of COVID is in the house and is in the world, moving forward, there is not going to be a choice, and therefore we wanted to bring the farmers into technology very fast, such that when technology is moving forward, they are again not left behind or being exploited like it has always been done. So we came up with a food haven, and we developed this shopping mart, the food haven. It can now be accessed through the Google Play Store. And we went also to organize farmers that could sell using this mart, and we are still working with them to ensure that they go on with their market online, but also rolling down this initiative to other communities. And we realized that we never had the time, we never had all of the resources that we need, neither did we have all the capacity that we require. And this is a service that is required all over the country. We moved very fast as we are still working on the platform and also organizing the farmers. We moved very fast to get into the policy making spaces. We negotiated and were made part of the COVID-19 task force for food security and agriculture, and we made sure that this idea is sold, and we are happy that it was sold and it was also adopted. And we saw government wanting to contact in the task force. They called in potential funders like the European Union and others to see how and World Bank, to see how they could link up this particular initiative with other initiatives existing, such as the e-voucher system. We also made sure that the policy processes that were going on, for instance, the development of the Nutrition Action Plan, also appreciates the issues of the agroecologically produced foods, to see that it ceases being a small initiative to respond, but it becomes national.
1 minute, Agnes. 1 minute, Agnes.
In 1 minute, I want to quickly talk about the lessons that we have so far made and recommendations. One, COVID-19 should be taken as a great opportunity for agroecologically produced foods. We need now to move aggressively and exploit the market opportunities of agroecologically produced foods, but also advance this in the policy arena for it to be adopted by government, bridge the gap of the digital divide, and then finally embrace the business model of agroecology. So for COVID-19 and agroecologically produced foods, a great opportunity that we should harness, and let us move from that direction and not from the morning direction or the lamentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Agnes. You remind us that during these challenging periods, it's also an opportunity for innovation, and to find new ways to organize and to strengthen local food systems. And thanks for sharing that with us. Now we will listen Doa Zayed from Union of Agricultural Works Committee from Palestine. Doa has a background in science, agriculture science, and she is leading the work in seed banks that has been implemented by UAWC in Palestine. Please go ahead, Doa. Could you please unmute your mic, please, Doa?
Yeah, thank you. Just 1 minute to share my screen. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Zayed from Palestine, from Union of Agricultural Work Committees. We established in 1986 in response to Israeli violation against the Palestinian people, especially small-scale farmers who lack their main source of life due to the Israeli thefts of Palestinian land, water, and energy resource. We are in Palestine, in occupation part of the world. Our vision: a resilient Palestinian farmer on his or her land, empowering you through social justice, struggling effectively for his or her national and democracy right within a free and food secure Palestinian society. And our mission is to effectively contribute toward empowering farmers and their families and enhancing their resilience on their land within a developing public and voluntary framework. Our direct and indirect beneficiary, they are the farmer in marginalized and poor family. We target the whole family, and we focus in a specific area. We work with people, with the farmer as an individual, and also as cooperative. We work with their families, and we work also with family headed by women and youth and children as a part from the family. Sample of our project that we do, we have one of the biggest programs that we have is agricultural land development, which is related to two main projects: land rehabilitation and reclamation, and agricultural growth, that increase the planted area and the green cover, because we give the opportunity for the people to reach their lands and to plant it also. Water resource management, we have many projects related to it, especially irrigation system of water distribution and harvesting, water wells and system rehabilitation and drilling, water tanks distribution, agricultural work pools and spring rehabilitation and establishing. Because we have a lot of problem with water shortage in the whole West Bank, because we do not have the control of our water resource, we need to increase the water storage capacity through the rain, the only water that we can access to. We have a lot of projects target the woman as individual and as cooperative, and we focus on economic empowerment of women through start up their project by give them the needed inputs to start their project according to experience and the market's need and their own local community. We have a lot of project and program related to animal production to improve our local variety, for example, and have other techniques help to provide fodder, green fodder for the farmer. The emergency relief project focus on three main things: the occupation, climate change, and COVID-19. And when we talk about COVID-19, we have a huge campaign we call it United Against COVID-19. We implemented through the last year. AWAC was able to reach more than 13,000 families in three different kinds of distribution. We have around 3,000 hygiene kit, 400,000 vegetable seedling, almost 3,000 food basket. And these families was separated. For some families was headed by men and other part was headed from women. This is some photo from our food basket that was to fill the gap between the producer and the consumer. So we support the farmer who produce a huge quantity of vegetables and they cannot market it in the lockdown. So we take it from them and we use it in our campaign also to support some needed family in a lot of areas that they cannot go to the market and take their needs. This is some photo of the food basket. This is the hygiene kit also. We target the most hot area that have the highest infection rate. And we have the vegetable seedlings. And that was the main activity we implemented and funded from Agroecology Fund. We noticed that the people, when the pandemic started, they come back to produce. The first thing that they search for is the food. So we have a huge demand demand from the people, not just the farmer, also the consumer, to produce their own food. And this is a good thing, and we need to build on. So through the Agroecology Fund, we distribute a lot of equipment and inputs that help people to plant in their home garden. But the target area was a lot of campaign, refugees campaign actually. They do not have land to plant. So we target the roof, and we do a green roof. So the people can produce their own fruit in their building roof and make it green also. We have other agroecology related projects also we implemented in UWAC. And we will focus on one of the main projects, which is the local seed bank. We call it in Arabic Budur. And we start working with the local seeds since 2010 till 2020, until now, and we are also work. The main objective and the main activity that we do, we collect, preserve, protect the indigenous Palestinian seed, which is unique because it's rain-fed seed. The local seeds, we use it as a solution for climate change, and we'll also use it as a solution for water shortage that we have. So the farmer can plant local seeds in any area without having even one drop of water. In our local seed bank, we have now more than 150 local species were preserved belonging to 12 plant families. I will go through some of them. Some of them is leafy crops. We have the turnip, for example, and all the photo is from our reproduction unit that I will talk about. We have the local, for example, local radish, which came with the long shape like the carrot. We have the black carrot. We have the local broad bean. Also the local bee, the cow bee, and one of the most important one is the local tomato, because it's important for each family and can survive without one drop of water also. We have the local eggplant, the local squash, the pumpkin also, watermelon in different variety. We have the serpent cucumber that can survive even in very poor soil, the sunflower, and okra. One of our activity is to reproduce the local seeds. We collect, preserve the seed and storage it, and at the same time we reproduce it to increase the amount available for the farmer, so we can cover a lot of farmers to plant the seed and can also reproduce it again by their own seed. Okay, so we have here some photo of our multiplication unit or reproduction unit. We plant the seed to produce seed, not to produce the food. So this is some photo of our harvest in the last season. We have the squash, eggplant, serpent cucumber, and tomato, for example. We have new techniques also to reproduce the seed according to climate change. So we try to make this cage, for example, to protect the seedling and the seed in winter season and from the pests also. We plant on the roof also, and we plant in bags, in any available thing we can plant. We contribute also to make the Palestinian farmer, reach the seed sovereignty, which is the start or the first step to reach the food sovereignty, because the local seed can reproduce by their own. So when we cover the farmer, he can produce fruit and he can produce also seed for the next season with improving the seed. The seed bank through 10 years, the last 10 years since establishing, we cover around the total beneficiary number 6,166 families with the family size average 5 members. We also cover planted area around 1,227.5 hectares. And this area wasn't planted before. So it's a new planted area, new green cover also for Palestine. At the same time, the seed bank works as educational center, because a lot of people plant the seed, especially, for example, in the COVID pandemic, they plant the seed for the first time, so they do not know how to deal with the seeds. So we provide also educational center to transfer the knowledge, because when we talk about the indigenous seed, we talk about the traditional way, traditional tool, traditional knowledge. we try to transfer it from the elder also farmer to the new generation, the youth and the children. Besides, many publications and awareness campaign targeted different category in the Palestinian community. Besides the seed bank, one of our aim also to increase green cover in different way, not just the local seed. We have a lot of home garden for the farmer, and we have new techniques also like the cocoon that we use to increase the survive person for the plant we planted in so arid area. So we support them with some water to survive and produce after 2 to 3 years.
1 minute to finish, Zayed. Thanks.
Okay. Besides a lot of activity related to protect biodiversity, which the seed bank is part of it, no chemical or no GM. We use a lot of composting, compost unit, biogas unit also. We use the solar energy. We also use the grey water system. And thank you. And if I would talk about the lesson learned in one point, that the people start when the pandemic, when we have the pandemic, the first thing that people think is the food. And it was opportunity for us as a seed bank also to support more people and to have people come back again to agriculture. And this opportunity we need to keep going with it and to produce and make the people not just be consumer, also to come back as a producer. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Zayed. This very, very inspiring work. And you remind us that together with the challenge of the pandemic itself, we have also the climate dimension. Yeah. And in places that we do not have control over territory or water access as is the case that you showed to us, and is the same in many parts of the world, to deal with these challenges is even more complicated. And how important was the work that you have done before to build these networks at local level, to do this work, rescuing local varieties, to provide response when the crisis come. So really, really inspiring presentation, and thanks for sharing. So we have 11 minutes before we finish, and we have many comments from the audience. We have people from France, from Hungary, from Uruguay, from Nigeria, and many others that did not introduce them in the chat. But we have received many very kind comments about how inspiring are the 3 cases that you have shared with us this morning. And we have also some questions. There is a question that I think would be interesting to listen Manga and Agnes, and also Zayed could add something about that. We have talked about how was complicated to reorganize in a very fast way the access to food, both for farmers to selling their products and for consumers to have access to food. Because as I had said, to have access to food was the first issue that everyone in all parts of the world were the main concern. I know I myself was the first thing when we started the quarantine here in Brazil. I said, wow, how will you buy food during the period that we have to get at home? And there was a question about how the vulnerable people were considering in terms of having a balance between the price that farmers received for their products and also the price that is affordable for the vulnerable people. And I think it would be good to listen Kathryn, Agnes, and if Zayed could add something on that.
Yes.
Please, Manga.
In the case of the Philippines, particularly in our experience, the traders in the local communities, they buy the vegetables at a very low price. So, for example, we have the bitter gourd. It is usually sold at 65 pesos in the supermarket or in the markets, but the traders would buy it for only 25 pesos. But what we do is we buy it for 40 pesos and sell it for 55 pesos. The little profit that we get is put in our fund for our relief operations for the other farmers. So that's how we balance things. We do not sell them at the price of the market. of the current price in the market. We want to still sell them at a lower price, but which is already a good price for the farmers. I hope I answered your question.
Please, Agnes.
Okay, indeed, it was a very tough time. I agree, the most vulnerable people are the most affected people. And for the case of Uganda, government had that in mind, although it never had the plan, the actual plan to deal with it. When government was closing down the country, the announcement was government was going to give food to the vulnerable people. Little did they know that the bulk of the population is actually vulnerable and they needed the food. But this is also what happened. We saw some essential foods, nutritious foods falling in prices. Traditionally, we buy a tray of eggs at around $3, an equivalent of $3. And we saw a tray of eggs dropping to around $1. And that definitely suggested that the farmers were selling it to the vendors at less than that. And therefore, the poultry farms that are mainly managed by women had to close down. And now the women were even, those women who were participating in poultry production were worse off. So it was really, really very difficult. And that is why we moved in very fast, because we saw government trying to respond in terms of supporting farmers. And we moved to go and talk to government what kind of support they should give farmers, because the best opportunity was to encourage as many people to produce the basic foods, especially like vegetables, grow some vegetables in the tins and so forth. We have started receiving feedback that the farmers that received the pumpkin seeds, for instance, that we advocated for, have harvested so many pumpkins as of now. And the struggle has to continue. So now the gist of the matter is, how do we pick these experiences to inform government programming, to inform programming of other change agents like NGOs? But it is really, really a problem because the vulnerable people live on hand to mouth.
Thanks, Agnes. Would you like to add something on that, Zayed?
Maybe it's something related more to the seed, because it's our case. All the thing is about the balance between the consumer and the producer. The COVID affected both of them. Even the consumer was affected and suffered from the COVID, especially, I mean, in the economic situation. So in the seed bank, for example, we sell our seeds in small fees just to cover our running cost. At the same time, we give the seeds in cheap price for the farmer. But we can do that because we already have a fund support us in the last period. But in the upcoming period, we try to have other opportunity just to cover the running cost. After that, we do not have a lot of profit because we are not profitable NGOs. So it's all about the balance between both of them, because both of them is suffering.
Thanks, Zayed. We have just 5 minutes, and I would like to give you 1 minute more before we close the session. If you have the opportunity to share one key message with policymakers and people that are thinking in terms of the actions needed in the year ahead, because the COVID-19 did not finish yet. We have lots of challenges, lots of impacts. And so if you could give one short message to a very powerful person that is in charge of policies in your country, what message you would give to them? Could you start, Manga?
Okay. I would tell them with one person in mind that get out of your office, experience the life of a farmer, experience the life in the farms, and be concerned, make good policies that are pro-people, that are people-centered, and that will feed everyone, not just the interest of a few. Thank you.
Thanks, Manga. Please, Agnes.
Okay, what I would tell the big person in my country is the president. Is the most big person. And this is what I would tell him, that we have a solution to COVID-19. And this solution is accessible and can be accessible by everyone. Reason being, everyone every day at least endeavors to eat something. So the solution is ensuring that whatever people put on their plate as food is ecologically produced, agroecologically produced food that can help them build their immunity, take care of nature, and feed the future as we win COVID-19. And it is true, possible, it is the right thing to do.
Thanks, Agnes. Please, Zayed.
Yeah. As we know, the COVID-19 affected the whole people in different category, different age, different sex, and everywhere. As they are the affected people, they should be also involved in solving this problem. So I think no one can work and solve this problem individually. We need to think as a team. We need to think with each other, each one to take his part and do it in the best way. Not just in my country, in Palestine, also in the world, in the whole world. This COVID-19 pandemic make us think in different way, in a gathering way maybe, because we finally have the same problem. So I think each one have different solutions. So together we can do. Thank you.
Thanks, Zayed. I would like to thank you, everyone that attended this session. We have learned this morning how important is the work of grassroots organizations that I have been doing, because they have been key players to provide fast response to this pandemic. We have learned how important is territory, is access to land, is access to water, is access to seed. We have learned that crisis also bring us an opportunity for innovation and to develop new tools and new ways to organize local markets and local food circuits. I would like to invite you to visit our webpage and also, sorry, I'm struggling a bit to square the screen. Can you see it?
Not yet.
We Agroecology Fund has supported 59 small grants in 45 countries. Today we have heard from Palestine, from Uganda, and from Philippines. But there are amazing work that have been done in different parts of the world. And we invite you to visit our web page and also the social media and web page of KMPRI from Philippines, of Food Rights Alliance from Uganda, and Union of Agriculture Work Needs from Palestine, to learn more about the amazing work that these organizations have been doing, and to learn more about other organizations' work that the Agroecology Fund has been supporting. And we wish, all people in all organizations that are facing this challenge at, the front line, all the strength. And we are welcome any support to these organizations so they can continue this amazing work. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Manga, Kathryn, that is very late
everyone.
in Philippines. Thanks,
It's okay.
Agnes. Thanks, Zayed, and thanks all organizers of the Oxford Real Food Conference for inviting us to host this session, and all participants that send us very kind and very, interesting comments and reaction of this amazing panel with these three amazing ladies. Thank you. Have a nice day and have a good 2021 year with strength to continue the struggle and the fights for resilient food systems. Thank you.
Thank you.
A big hug from Brazil for everyone.